Hi there guys, welcome to another video. Today we're looking at bottom escape from the mount position. We have a few basic sweeps. We have a few basic escapes from this position, guys. The Uppah series, a shrimp and guard recovery, and then we're going to look at a little more obscure escapes like our backdoor escape, as well as what we refer to as an elevator escape or the kipping movement to get out of the mount position. So let's get cracking. First thing we're going to look at is our Uppah escapes. The principles of utilizing an Uppah escape are simple. Take away the base of the opponent on one side completely, push them in that direction, and you get the sweep.
Alright guys, the Uppah escape or the buck or the bridge escape requires me to have the opponent's weight, preferably over my hips. The hips are the power generated by the legs, so we want to move his body in either direction, right or left. If he's high, we want to have our elbows tight on his quads and be able to shrimp ourselves up and him down. So we have him over our hips position. Depending on where his arms are placed, this will determine how I take away his base to enable me to sweep him. Alright, the first type of Uppah escape, if his hands are accessible to me, maybe he's trying to attack my neck or my arms, and he's left his hands in the proximity of where I can grab them. I'm going to cross grip. My inside hand grabs the tricep. My outside hand is going to grab the wrist. In essence, I've taken away his ability to base with his hand on this particular side. I'm also going to block the foot where I can. So we're going to pull our heel to our butt and we're going to step on the outside of his ankle. I'm going to take my other foot and I'm going to prep it on the floor. I'm going to bridge and turn a 45-degree angle over my shoulder to get an effective bridge or buck or Uppah into the top position. I'm going up and to a 45 in a smooth and simultaneous motion. In the bridge, if I can have my forearm across his chest, I can use that as a point to which I push into to generate more power to get him to go over my shoulder. So we're in the mount position. The guy has his hands on the mat. If I try to pull them to my chest, he's too strong, I can't do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the hand where it is, and we're going to stifle it, make it as useless as possible to him so that he can't base effectively with it. The hand on the same side comes around his arm, I make a fist and I dig it between his armpit and his body. From here, I'm keeping my elbow tight to my side. Be careful if you're working with an opponent or a partner, make sure their hand is facing palm up when you practice this movement, so that they don't damage or hurt their own wrist. Once we've got the hand wrapped, we're going to trap the ankle like we did for the first one. I'm going to take my hand on the free side and I'm going to bring it underneath the far lat. I'm going to use this hand in the same Uppah motion. I'm going to put it in as a shove or a kind of, not a strike, but more of a nudge in the direction of the position we are sweeping our opponent into. So as I Uppah, this hand is going to aid me in generating an extra bit of power to push them over in the direction of no base to get the sweep. Wrap, trap, prep your arm, base both your feet on the floor, drive through the floor, up into your hips, Uppah and sweep.
Okay guys, those are our Uppah escapes. Two different types, one when the hand is accessible to the chest and one when we have to wrap. Each of those require you to stifle their base as best as you can, keep them as low over your hips as you can, and then initiate your sweep. The third type of escape we're going to utilize is the backdoor escape. The backdoor escape, in essence, requires me to create a cavity or a hole between the opponent's legs and then suck myself out from that particular cavity and come up behind them, aka the backdoor escape. Now you got to be very careful when you're doing this particular escape, because if you get caught with one arm in and one arm out, you can be attacked. Arm triangle, kimuras. So when we're exiting, keep your hands as close together so that they can aid one another. And you're not caught in a position where you have one hand in and one hand out, putting yourself in a dangerous situation.
Okay guys, so the first thing we want to do in this particular position is create the cavity. Some guys will try and do a massive buck and a massive bridge. And in doing so, they'll then look to shove their hands under the opponent's legs, looking something like this. The problem with that is it requires a lot of energy to get a very high lift off the opponent. A very explosive uppah is required. Number two, if you stuff it up, when the opponent's weight comes back down to the floor, if you haven't got your hands deep enough, you get stuck or trapped in that position. You then have to restart that whole sequence again, which takes more energy. A more efficient way to do this is to uppah and immediately get to your side, putting ourselves in a sort of hybrid S-mount position. What this does, it creates a cavity and keeps the cavity open just by the sheer position of my body, creating a natural frame. So I will uppah like normal, but I will turn my hips so that I end up on my side with the opponent's hips on top of me. Once we're on our side, there's always a cavity that is accessible to us just above the knee on the hamstring. What you don't want to do is enter one hand in deep and leave the other one out. You'll be armbar, triangle, or attacked with it. Make sure both hands go towards this cavity. Once my hands have exited, there are two movements that will be applied. One, my hands are being brought to my face, and my legs are pulling me out, but in a crescent motion. Not straight back, but in an arcing motion, so that I exit on this leg. That would look something like this.
Immediately on my exit, the leg is very clear. As soon as I exit, the leg is very conveniently placed for me to secure it and work my way up from a single leg position. So let's have a look at that again from a different angle. Guys, in Jiu-Jitsu, there's always more than one way to solve the problem, generally. The first way of solving a problem is utilizing a high energy system, which could yield a high reward. Example, I'm mounted, I wrap an Uppah Escape, wrap the arm, block the leg. A really explosive movement takes me from the bottom right to the top in one quick and explosive movement. However, if I fail on that multiple times, I will deplete my energy resources quite drastically. So an alternative plan to that is to use a technique that requires less energy, gives off a less reward, however, can be built upon quite easily until you finally get to your end goal, which is a dominant position or finish. This avenue of escape will work if you are fatigued or if you're against a person that is much larger or stronger than you. An example of this would be our shrimp escape. So the shrimp escape from the mount position, or the elbow knee, as it is often referred to as, is me blocking the opponent's hips and knees, pulling my hips out and isolating a leg, putting myself into a guard position. And from a guard position, working my way up into a more dominant position, working my guard escapes and then eventually getting to the top. Now the movement required for a shrimp is me blocking
An opponent's hips with my elbows, either on their knees or their hips with both of my hands, preventing them from following me as I move my butt away from them. So we're using our feet on the mat. If I'm on my left side, it's predominantly my right leg in this case that will generate the power from me pushing off the floor, which will enable my hips to free themselves from under the opponent's weight. If I was on the other side, I would then use my left leg to generate the power to be able to move my hips away. Remember, you don't have to oscillate between two. We often work the drill as a warm-up where we push from right to left to right. This is a nice warm-up to utilize. However, when actually implementing the escape, you can continuously hit the one side 3 or 4 times before deciding to switch to the other side as your escape. So you don't have to go left and right each time while shrimping or escaping. You can actively pursue the one side until you feel there's no longer any use and then switch to the other side. This is not a pretty escape. It requires a lot of bucks and shrugs and shrimps until you free your leg, entangle one of the opponent's legs and pull yourself into a guard position. This is going to be an example of a simple shrimp escape. So the first thing, once I've been mounted, again, keep the opponent's weight as far over your hips as you can. I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to block his knee on my left, and my right hand is going to be placed on his hip. I'm going to turn in to the side I'm blocking. I'm going to extend my hands, use my foot to gain the power, and I'm going to pull my butt out from under Bob's weight. Now that happened in one smooth shimp. Sometimes I may need 2, 3, or 4 of those. In this particular case, my top knee escaped first. I'm then going to flare my knee outwards to keep that space open, pull free my bottom leg, and enter into the open guard, which gives me an avenue to enter any of my other guards that I wish to play. Notice how my hands also work in conjunction with my legs to frame and to work on creating space for my legs to come into position to regain guard. I can also snag one leg and pull myself into half guard utilizing the shrimp escape. This is what that would look like. I would shrimp like normal, but for whatever reason I couldn't free my top leg. So what I'm going to do is take my outside foot, step over the opponent's ankle and pull their ankle on the inside of my knot. From here, we're going to pass the knee inwards between my thighs, and I'm going to switch my hips so that I'm now facing the inside of the opponent's body. Thereafter, from the half guard position, I can work my way to a more dominant position using my underhook series, my duck unders, whatever takes my fancy. I've got to help the pulling of the opponent's knee into my leg, either with my hand or either with my elbow. I can also use my knees once I've snagged that foot to turn in to help that foot sink deep into my half guard position. Final escape we're going to be looking at today is our Kip or our elevator escape. The elevator escape requires 2 motions. The oscillation of the hips, almost in a bucking rhythmic motion, continuous repetitions of the bucking motion, whilst the arms aid into pushing the opponent's weight above the knee line. Once our knee can pass the hip line, we bring our knees on the inside, create a frame, which enables us to go into a typical inside ashy position, or it allows us to create a frame to push the opponent's weight off us and then get on top. An easy way to practice this particular movement is to lay on your back. Okay? Get used to pulling your knees to your chest, straightening your legs, and working on little bumps with your hips. That movement, that vibration of those little bucks are the foundation to which you're going to offset your opponent, pushing them each time a little higher to above your knee line. Your arms play a big role in this too. You want to, on each consecutive buck, straighten your hand a bit more so it gets to a locked out position. Notice I don't push with my hands high above my chest, separating my elbows, because that will leave me susceptible to arm attacks, etc. We want to keep those elbows nice and tight. Whilst they're on our side, extend outwards onto the hip, using the legs and the arms in conjunction with our hips to create space and therefore put in our frame. So this is what the elevator escape would look like. First thing is first, I want to have my knees nice and high under the opponent's back. I almost want to shift his weight forward as I initiate this takedown, as I initiate this escape. I want to straighten my legs. I want to take my hands, place them on the hips. Have my elbows tight to my side on the inside of the opponent's quads or on top of them. I can't do it with my elbows flared because I may put myself in a compromised position. From here, we're going to bring his weight forward. We're going to start bucking and have our knees enter on the inside. As I find the hips separated from my body, my knees are entering, keeping that space open and pushing him away. In that particular instance, I push Bob into the butterfly position. I could have just put him into Ushiro Ashigarami or an inside Ashi if I needed to, based on me getting one knee in or me getting 2 knees in.
In that particular position, I pushed Bob into a butterfly position, but I could have just as well put myself in a leg entanglement, like the inside ashi. Had I only got one knee in, I'd be forced to go into a leg entanglement position. This is what that would look like.
Notice how my knee comes on the inside as soon as there's a gap or a space.
I don't have to attack the legs either each time. I can also use it as a frame to push him away and get to a standing base position. This is what that would look like. Guys, thank you for watching that video on bottom mount escapes. Your uppers, your backdoor escapes, your elevated escapes, and your shrimp escape. Adhere to the principles, guys. Have fun with it. Practice these movements as much as you can to get comfortable with them, but these will suffice as a basic foundation to escape. Guys, thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next video. Be sure to like and subscribe.